Hello, Osinian. I'm the Mass Analyst. Now, I had never heard of you before today or yesterday, and I guess that makes us even because you've probably never heard of me either. Now, the reason I heard of you, I can't say it's a very flattering reason. I've heard that you've DMCA'd a couple of videos, one by Antibu 86 and another by idiotech. Now, I'm a little bit more familiar with Antibu's situation than idiotech's, so I'm going to be talking primarily about the DMCA you sent against him. I presume what I say is probably going to hold true against about idiotech as well. Now, I'm going to post a link in the sidebar to a video by, I think her name is the Vegan Witch, and I want you to look at the comments in the comment sections, particularly the comments posted by Onision and CatCommunication. Onisien believes that he is justified in his DMCA, and CatCommunication backs him up and gives him some new reasons to justify the DMCA complaint. Now, there are a couple of issues. First of all, Onisien, you say that you posted your complaint, you sent YouTube your complaint in good faith. That very well may be. You may very well have sent in your DMCA complaint in good faith, and it might not be. It's probably not against the law. I don't think you're going to get into any legal trouble whatsoever about this. My guess is YouTube's probably not going to take down your channel either, because, as you say, you had some sort of reason to back yourself up. However, even though it may have been in what you would call good faith, it was, in my opinion, wrong. You got your DMCA, your fair use analysis, totally wrong. I'm going to try and correct that. And let's see if you're a man of honor. If you believe that you did make a mistake, I'm going to ask you to withdraw your complaint. Ask YouTube to restore the video. Okay, now let's look at the things you said in order to justify your complaint. And I've looked at Antibu's video. He's posted it elsewhere on the web, and I took a look at the video, and in my opinion, without having seen the original video from which it was taken, it was probably fair use. Now, here's what you said about it. You said that he took the heart of the video. Well, that would be one factor which would indeed point toward an infringement. If indeed you are correct that he did take the heart of the video, and I'll trust you on that one, that would point to infringing. But as we shall see later on, the fair use test is really a four-factor test, and that's only one factor. You also claimed that his use was not fair use because he downloaded your video illegally. That, my friend, is not one of the factors in a fair use analysis. Now, there are four factors spelled out. Admittedly, one can include other factors, but the factors that the courts traditionally look at, that is not one of them. And even if it was, you're still wrong. He did not download it illegally. If you're going to make a statement like that, please point to me the code. What law did he break? He didn't. What he did do was violate YouTube's terms of service. He violated the TOS. Now, that is a violation of a contract between him and YouTube. YouTube, if they wanted to, they could sue him for that, or they could kick him off his site. But that's something between him and YouTube. You, my friend, have no standing in this matter. Now, if they were to take him to court, I have strong doubts. I really doubt the court's going to do anything about this, and I'll tell you why. And I'm not a lawyer. I could be totally wrong in this, but my impression is that this is what's known as a contract of adhesion. In order for him to be able to get onto the most popular site on the internet, or maybe the second most popular site on the internet, in order for him to be able to post videos where a large number of people can hear him, in order to be where he can post videos where members of Congress and the president hang out. YouTube is a special place on the internet, and they know it. They call themselves the world's largest town hall for political speech. In order for him to enter this town hall, he has to sign a contract, and there's no negotiation on his part of the contract. The terms are take it or leave it, which makes this a contract of adhesion. And so he can't negotiate it in order to have what might almost be a right. Now, I'm not saying it is a right. That's something for the courts to decide. But it would be very interesting if this ever did go to court, and if he did argue that it was a right to be able to post a video in response to, say, his congressional representatives who from time to time post videos and ask people to post video responses. Be very interesting to see what would happen. And what makes YouTube's argument even weaker is the fact that mashup videos have really become part of the internet culture. And in fact, YouTube, I'm guessing it was about 4 or 5 months ago, featured a video from one of their sponsors, Saw 5. They featured it very prominently on the home page, on the very first page that you entered. Very large. You couldn't miss it. For a day or two they featured it. And in that video, their sponsor urged people to go to their page and make mashups of their video. Well, the only way they could make mashups of the video would be to download it from YouTube. In other words, YouTube featured a video by a sponsor in which the sponsor urged, in effect, urged everyone who was watching to violate YouTube's terms of service. Now, I'm not going to say that this makes YouTube hypocrites, but it does show how unreasonable the terms of service is. Whether a court would really enforce it or not, that's another issue. Now, YouTube's probably not going to find out about this unless you go running and crying to them and go, "Oh, he's a mean man. He downloaded my video. Make him stop. Make him stop." Yes, you could do that. And YouTube may very well suspend his account because you sent them to be your executioner. But beware. There's often a karma on the internet, and if you do this, I predict that you will become well known as a pariah. You will have told YouTube, "Get rid of him. Let him have no voice. Let him be unable to post videos to his congressman or woman. Shut him up because he hurt my feelings. Shut him up because I don't want to debate him on a level playing field of ideas. Shut him up because I can't stand his site. I can't stand the fact that he uses my video in order to make me look like a fool." Well, you can do this, but I predict that you're going to get a lot of enemies. This is not a threat. I've just seen it happen a number of times. So if you want to do this, if you want to show that you're an asshole, then go ahead, run to YouTube and complain about it. But as I say, once again, this is not a factor in a fair use analysis. Number 3, the third thing you said is, well, it violates fair use because there's affordable permission for you that was available for using the work. In other words, if he was willing to pay you some money, then you would have given him permission. Well, gee, fair use implies that you don't have to get permission. I mean, if he had permission, then what's the whole point of the fair use doctrine? Okay, that has nothing to do with it. In effect, if in fact that was something to do with it, then whether or not someone could make fair use of your videos would depend on their economic status. Someone who was dirt poor wouldn't be able to afford to use your videos. And fair use should not be dependent on who has the money. Okay, the fourth factor you said was numerous copies were made. Really? That's part of the fair use analysis? Since when does the number of copies being made determine whether or not it's fair use? In fact, you copy it once and you put it up on the internet. When you're doing that, you don't know whether one person's going to watch your video, 2 people are going to watch it, 500 people. If the use was fair, if only one person were to watch it, why isn't it fair when 2 people watch it? Where's the dividing line? This is ridiculous. But it's not as ridiculous as supposedly your most ridiculous argument yet. Now, this is an argument that Antibu told me that you told him. And in fact, he posted it somewhere in a comment section, so I'm not revealing anything he hasn't posted on the internet. He told me that you took down your original video, which he took clips from. You took it down. My guessing is you took it down because you looked like a fool, but I have no idea. I don't know. But that you look like a fool, and Antibu made you look ridiculous. That would be my guess as to why you took it down, but I could be wrong. But in any case, your argument to him was, now that it was no longer published, that made his work infringing, since it was not a published work. Excuse me? Are you saying you can unpublish a work that you've already published? Let me ask you something. If a woman gives birth and the baby turns out to be really, really ugly, can she unbear the baby by shoving it back up her birth canal? This is ridiculous. Let me show you an example. Okay. Suppose President Obama did something really loopy. Now, I like Obama. I know he's not going to do this, but this is just for sake of argument. Suppose he were to say, we must forgive our enemies. We need to make friends with them. And for that reason, I'm going to put up a statue of Osama bin Laden on the White House lawn. Now, suppose he said this in a video. He published the video. He said it. And I made a video using that clip of his and accuses him of being a traitor and a fool. Now, suppose he didn't like my video and he decided to pull his video from the internet. Would that make my use unfair? Would that mean he could bury my video in an Orwellian memory hole, never to be seen again? If that is the case, my friend, then censorship is too easy. Now, maybe I'm being a little bit harsh on you, Onisien. I don't actually know for a fact that you claim that just because it was no longer published, it was not fair use. This is what Antibu said to me. This is what he posted in the comments section. And if in fact you never said this, then please post a comment in this section, and I will consider this an apology in advance. But if that is indeed an argument you made, it's a ridiculous argument. Now, CatCommunication also made some points, which sounds at first blush reasonable in the comments section. And he or she, I'm not sure, I haven't checked out the channel, but whoever this person is said that you're a partner and that you make money off your videos. Antibu posted that video using your clips on his channel. People would look at his version of your video and then they wouldn't have a reason to go to your channel, and that would deprive you of money. And if you think about that for half a second, it sounds reasonable, but if you think about it for a second, it no longer is reasonable. First thing that downfall is, at least for me, if I see somebody making a critique of someone else's videos and they use clips from the videos, what I'm going to do is, before I even really watch their critique very far, I'm going to watch the original video. If anything, I would think Antibu's use of your clips in his video would probably drive more people to watch your video in the first place. So I question the very thesis, the very assumption. But even if that were so, the thing is, that in itself is not enough to determine whether or not it's fair use. The thing is, and I'm going to quote from Campbell versus Acuff-Rose. This was a Supreme Court decision, and in this decision, Two Live Crew had made a parody of the video of the song "Pretty Woman," Roy Orbison's song, and this whole case was discussing the role of parody. And many of the things said about parody could also be said about commentary. And I'm not sure whether you would call Antibu's video of you a parody. I think it's more like commentary than parody. But in any case, what the court said is, the more transformative the new work, the less will be the significance of other factors, like commercialism, that may weigh against a finding of fair use. Now, if anything, Antibu's video of yours was very, very, very transformative. In fact, I suspect it was because it was too transformative for your taste. That's why you sent in the DMCA. It changed the meaning of your video. It put it in a new light, in a very unflattering light, I might add. And I suspect it was because it was too transformative. That's why you sent in the DMCA. And in my mind, because it was so transformative, that is going to be a very heavy factor weighing toward fair use. Also, in CatCommunication's analysis, which you agreed with, there's a bit of a confusion as far as what it means as competing. Yes, it may possibly take away views from yours, and it might lead people not to watch the original, but it's not competing directly in the market. Here's why. If I'm a book review critic and I use portions of the book to criticize it, if I excerpt paragraphs here and there and I'm using it to just tear the book apart or make the author look like an absolute fool, well, I may cost the author some sales. In fact, I may totally discredit the author by using passages to make him look like a fool. But the thing is, my book review is not competing in the exact same market. It's not giving the viewer the same sense. They're not getting the same thing out of it as the original. So for that purpose, it's not really competing. I'm going to post a couple of paragraphs from the Campbell versus Acuff-Rose decision in the sidebar. And I suppose I could read it, but you know when I read stuff I kind of drone on and on. So I'm really going to encourage you to read the 2 paragraphs in the sidebar that covers this in a lot more eloquence than I can right here. But the fact of the matter is, when you watch Antibus' treatment of your video, and when you watch, I'm sure, your original video, they serve very different purposes. They were aimed at probably somewhat different audiences, and one was not a substitute. So that factor does not point toward fair use. Okay, so I've told you what I think of your fair use analysis. Now let me do my fair use analysis, and let's see if we come to a different conclusion. Okay, the first factor is the purpose and character of the use, including whether such use is of commercial nature or for non-profit educational purposes. Okay, so first, was Antibus' video for commercial purposes? No, I don't see him going out selling that video. So that's likely to point to fair use. Second, does it fall within the purpose of the fair use exception? These are all sub-factors of the first factor. And one of the purposes is criticism and comment. Gee, sure looks like that to me. Another might be parody and satire. I suppose you could call it parody or satire because he sure did make you look like a fool, but I think it's more criticism and comment. But in any case, it does indeed fall within one of the purposes for fair use. So that points toward fair use. And thirdly, is it transformative? Oh boy, is it transformative. In fact, as I mentioned before, I believe it is so transformative, that's why you DMCA'd it, because you're a whiny little bitch who can't afford, who doesn't want to put up with that sort of thing. Okay, the nature of the copyrighted work, in other words, your work that he took from. Now, if your work was informational, then it is more likely to be viewed as fair use than if it's fictional or music, that sort of thing. Now, I didn't see the actual video that he took from, but I think you were trying to inform people as to why they shouldn't be vegetarians. Or if it wasn't informational, it was at least opinion, an opinion piece. So that probably points toward fair use. It wasn't a pure entertainment piece. It's not like say the Watchmen movie or Batman or something like that. Okay. And the other sub-factor within this factor is was the work being copied, was that previously published? Yep, you did indeed publish it. You can't unpublish something. It was previously published. If you didn't want people to use it, you know, it should have stayed on your hard drive. Okay, the third factor, the amount and substantiality of the portion used in relation to the copyrighted work as a whole. Hard for me to say on this because, again, since you pulled the original video, I didn't see it. You say that it took the heart of the video. Okay, I'm going to grant you that one. I don't know how much it took. Seems to me like he took no more of it than was necessary to make you look like a fool. He took no more of it than was necessary to serve his purposes, in which case it probably would be fair use. But I'm going to give you that factor because I really don't know. And the fourth factor is the effect of the use upon the potential market for or value of the copyrighted work. And again, as I discussed before, if his video was being purchased or was being used instead of your video, if people saw this and said, okay, well, I know everything that he would have told me it gives me substantially the same consumer experience, then that would be violating fair use. But no, watching his video and watching what I imagine your video was like would be very different experiences. So no, this would indeed point toward fair use. So at least 3 of the 4 factors probably point toward fair use. And it seems very obvious that the purpose of your DMCAing that video was because you didn't like it, because you wanted to silence him. Now, the purpose of copyright law, and I've done a number of videos on this, and if you're interested, I advise you to check them out. But the purpose of copyright law is to stimulate the creation of new works. It does this through 2 means. One, it gives those who create works limited control over their works. And the second means is it gives people the ability to build upon other people's works by letting them copy, under certain circumstances, their works. And that's what fair use is all about. Seems to me like you're trying to destroy the ability of people to build on your work in order to criticize you. Seems to me like you're being a bitch over this. Now, prove me wrong. Show me if you believe that you've made a mistake, and I think you have. Show me this by sending YouTube a letter telling them that yes, you did indeed at the time believe in good faith that you were within your rights in sending the DMCA. But now you realize, now you've had a little bit more education on the issues of fair use, now you realize you've made a mistake and that you want to withdraw the DMCA. That's what I would advise you to do. Now, if you go the opposite route, and if you go crying like a bitch to YouTube about Antibus downloading your video in violation of YouTube's terms of service, and if you get his account deleted, not a threat. I'm not going to do anything about it, but let me put it this way. I've seen what trolls do to somebody who abuses a process like this. It isn't pretty. As I said before, I'm not going to harass you on YouTube if you do get Antibus channel suspended. I'm not into the harassment sort of thing. That's just not my bag. However, what I will do, just because I know it's going to piss you off, is I'm going to go to my local sub shop, see if I can persuade them to change the name of one of their sandwiches, or to make a new sandwich called the Onisien special. And in it, it will be basically a chicken and bologna sandwich. A chicken, because obviously you're too chicken to play on a level playing field of ideas, and you have to go and get someone's account suspended, which is a really chicken move. And a bologna sandwich, because your fair use analysis is full of bologna. Well, this has been the Mass Analyst, under and in.